Hello everybody. So I spent the last 17 days straight working at a warehouse, and it's nice to have a day off. I'm pretty sure that you guys are aware, anybody that's really watched me all that long, that I've tried all kinds of different things to fund this lifestyle and to keep my travels and my nomad life rolling. And one of the funnest things that I did that seemed like it would be the coolest was the gig apps. Especially the ones that you can, like, within 24 hours switch where you're working them at, just because of the freedom and everything. There's some issues that come along with that, like the risk of deactivation if you really looked into them for a while. You know, different things about putting your vehicle at risk, and you know, how are you going to make your income? You know, it's not a traditional job, so there's no kind of health benefits normally. There's no kind of sick leave or any kind of stuff like that. And especially with all this COVID stuff, you know, I could see why somebody would be nervous about that. But I've worked for DoorDash and Uber Eats, and depending on the location, you can make pretty good money even after you take in all of your deductions. And I made a bunch of videos about that, and like how you should choose what orders that you go ahead and go on so that you can make sure that you're making a decent living. And I'll go ahead and put together a playlist to link up over above. No, what I'll do is, instead of above, at the very end of the video, you'll be able to find like an end screen little video thing that'll pop up at the end that you can click on to go check those out. That's really not the point of this video. In this video, I really wanted to talk about a service that I think sounds really cool called Kover. This service kind of takes a lot of those gig economy app sort of risks away. So I thought that was pretty cool. Now, Kover, basically, they have this deal where you pay like a membership fee, a monthly membership fee, and it starts at just $7 a month. It varies, you know, there's like 3 different plans that you can have depending on, you know, how much coverage you want from them, you know, like how much protection you want from them, I should say. Another cool thing about it is they don't just do it so that, you know, you have to pick one of these 3 versions. They kind of have a thing where you can build like a custom plan for you too. I thought it was really interesting. Like, I would expect like a service like this would probably make it so that they would only like cover you when you're like actually working or something. As long as you're a member with Kover, they're going to go ahead and cover you with the benefits that they provide. Their major benefits is like bringing in some of those W-2 type benefits to it. In my opinion anyways, they're kind of like that. So they give you paid sick time that you can get. You know, they pay out for hospitalizations, for like vehicle accidents. So if you got in a wreck when you were out delivering you know, food or whatever, or say you were, you know, running Uber or Lyft and picking up passengers or something, or Amazon Flex or whatever, you know, they basically will pay you for lost wages while your vehicle, you know, is getting repaired. I thought that was kind of cool. Also, I think that sick leave is pretty cool sort of thing. Like if you get sick, they'll actually do a payout and everything, and their payouts are pretty quick. So what you do is you put in your whatever it is, your for sick time or hospitalization or accidents, and they have a algorithm that actually reviews your claim, and they're able to pay out as quickly as in 1 day. I actually heard about them paying out as fast as 1 day, but usually within 3 days. And that's unheard of. I've never heard of any of these kind of things. Uber has something that you can kind of get those some you know, lost work pay or whatever, from what I understand, but a lot of people complain about that taking a month or more, you know. So I just think it was pretty cool how quickly they can do it. And another thing on that note is, it's not just that, you know, they'll pay out quick, but they transfer it right away to your account when they pay out. So that's pretty neat. I mean, you're not going to be waiting that long to get the money if you end up ever needing to use it. And you know, if you see some of these testimonials that I've watched, and I've signed up on it, by the way, and a lot of it is from, well, here, check this out.
Are we going? Is there an official start? I started driving rideshare. It'll be 2 years this June. But I went full time a year ago this month. Yeah, I'm completely dependent upon the rideshare income, and the rideshare income insurance was like, I hadn't heard of anybody insuring your income, especially in such a precarious career field. I mean, anything could happen. Well, I found cover on the Gridwise app. So I'm thinking $12 incrementally. That's doable. That's something I can do for a huge protection on the backside. And things are kind of chaotic in an accident, and the big question marks afterward, you're gonna need income because it's gonna take a while to get things straightened out. And that's exactly what happens. Cover was there.
Right.
Cover covered it. They totaled my car. You couldn't even tell her car had been hit. As an insurance company, you weren't like breaking yourselves over the technicalities not to pay. And you did it in retrospect. So that was awesome. And then you paid in like less than 12 hours. Yeah, well, I mean, you didn't bend over backwards not to pay, which is what I was expecting. You'd find some technicality that you didn't have to pay, and then all those weekly payments would have been for naught, and it was not the case. So it was awesome. It was perfect timing. I was only on board a couple months before I needed to use it. I think it was the easiest thing I'd probably ever done.
All right, now the big benefits I would say are on the payouts are basically going to be like, if you get in an accident, you can get 80% of your average daily earnings when you're out doing your gig app, which is pretty good. I mean, if you look into like workers' comp or like unemployment or something like that for people that are like W-2 employees, you're looking at like 60%. So with this kover thing, they're paying out 80% of your average earnings on these gig apps, which I thought was pretty cool. If you're like in an accident until your vehicle's repaired, up to a max of like 15 days, I think it said. Along with that, accidents, like also like if you ended up, something happened, you ended up hospitalized. I never really thought about this much before what's been going on with COVID and everything, but like if you land yourself in the hospital and you're a gig worker, I mean, even a lot of people with W-2 jobs, but even more so with gig workers, because you know, you definitely don't have any sick leave, right? If you landed yourself in the hospital, you could make a claim on it and get up to, you get that 80% of what your average pay is usually out to that 15-day mark anyways, which is a big help if you ever got sick. I'd mentioned earlier a little while at the beginning of this video about something called deactivation. And so sometimes on these gig apps, what'll happen is you'll be going along, you'll be working for them, you'll have like started, you know, basically it's your full-time job, and then all of a sudden they deactivate your account, they shut down your app and you can't work anymore. And that's pretty scary for a lot of people. Now, it's probably the case where most of the people that have that happen, it's for really good reason, but I've heard some nightmare stories about it being not for a good reason, like for no reason at all, it seemed, or at least not one that could be easily determined, right? And it's kind of scary to have everything just shut down like that. Now, the cool thing about kover is they'll actually pay out as long as it wasn't for good reason. As long as you didn't get shut down for like actually violating terms of service or something where you should have gotten shut down, they'll actually pay out to you when you make a claim for the time that you were deactivated, which is like unheard of. I haven't heard about anything like that going on at all. And another thing is not only will they help pay you out while you're deactivated, they actually have legal services so that if you were deactivated unfairly, they'll go to bat for you about it. And they have some connections at some of these gig apps where they can even help like mediate with their legal team to get you reinstated. I wanted to talk about some, like, along with the services, basically the benefits I told you about the payouts and stuff. They have some pretty cool perks too. So obviously a lot of these gig apps, there's not a good way to go get health insurance. Like, I mean, for us nomads, period, it kind of is difficult. I mean, I actually pay for state coverage in South Dakota for myself right now, and it's pretty much worthless. The only reason why I have it is if my brain tumor ever comes back. You know, I'll have catastrophic care, or when I need a transplant for my corneas, since you know, they're damaged and I'm going blind and stuff. So that's the only reason why I have the insurance, because the deductible's so high. It never really saves me any money. It's just it's just insurance so that if I have a huge catastrophic thing, I don't end up dying because I can't get care. Well, with Kover, they have, you know, it's something that at least helps with healthcare. I'd like to see it get expanded, and there's probably a good chance that they will, since this is a new company. I can see them actually starting to provide health insurance for gig workers. But at the stage right now, one of their perks is they're providing, you know, telecare. And so basically, right as a membership benefit, you can contact healthcare providers, top-notch healthcare providers, and talk to them about any kind of illness or anything like that you have. And I think that's pretty cool. It's helpful, you know. I have seen it be really useful to do those telecare, and I'd never seen anybody do it until Renee used it during COVID. She actually had an appointment with a doctor through a telecare sort of thing, and I mean, totally was able to handle everything and get her prescriptions and stuff. And so I actually think a lot of that, and I think it's a big bonus to something like this. And it definitely would be something that I would use, you know, with this service, is because of the fact that, you know, even though I'm paying for health insurance, I don't really have, I got to pay for it anyway. So something like this is really awesome. I already mentioned a little bit about it as kind of a benefit, but, you know, in connected with the deactivation thing. But I guess it'd probably a little bit better if I called it a perk, but that's that legal help for gig workers. You know, help you get reactivated and stuff. But, you know, these are top lawyers that work in the industry, and, you know, either gig app type stuff or actually like other delivery type thing, you know, services, and these lawyers that specialize in that. So that to me is a big deal, especially when it can give you some peace of mind if you ever did get deactivated, you know, when it's not really your fault. Now, I don't think it's a big concern about getting deactivated for your fault, because if you're like breaking the terms of service, it's no different than if you had any other job and you weren't doing your job, or you did it poorly, you'd get fired, you know. Obviously, I already talked about how they do the payout for hospitalizations, but another cool thing is like the sick leave sort of thing. Now, you know, some employers have sick leave. Most nomads don't have jobs that you get sick leave, but, you know, some employers do give sick leave. But with Kover, what's kind of cool, even though it comes out of you, what they'll do is, if you are sick, but you're not so sick that you're in the hospital, right? You can get an interest-free loan for that time that you're sick and out of work. You know, like with this COVID thing, you know, we're being encouraged to have nobody go to work right, when you're sick or anything like that, which is probably like how we should always have been doing it, but especially with this COVID stuff. So you're probably not going to go to work. It's even more likely you wouldn't go to work when you were sick. So it's neat that you can get an interest-free loan through them to be able to cover that time that you're out sick. I think that's cool. One of the big problems that people get themselves into when doing gig apps is really handling their taxes right. So as a gig worker, there's a whole plethora of things that are tax write-offs, but your big one is your mileage for running around in your vehicle, and that actually usually ends up being the biggest tax deduction, rather than if you like itemize stuff up, and it's the least amount of work to really carry over or be questioned about. And one of the benefits for having Kover is that they actually pay for your service for Hurdler. And what that is it's an app that like tracks your mileage and tracks all your business expenses and all that, and has them all ready for when it's time to do tax time. And it generally saves a lot of people. It gives them, you know, frequently as much as like $5,700 or so, you know, of a tax write-off per year on average. That's a big deal. It's a nice thing that just gets piled on to Kover just by having it, you know, instead of having to go and pay for this service outside. A big deal about Kover is also, it doesn't matter which gig apps you're working. Like, you know, just because one of them has this benefit and the other one doesn't, you know, you're forced into working for one of the companies more than the other, or what have you, right? Well, with Kover, they cover multiple apps. So they cover Instacart, Postmates, Uber, Lyft, DoorDash, Amazon Flex, Grubhub, Shipt, Caviar, and Wanolo. So, you know, you have multiple apps that are covered by it, so you could work for any of them or all of them. And I even know people that blend like multiple apps like that, 4 or 5 apps, to help improve their income. So doing multi-app really helps you make more money when you're doing gig work. A lot of times when you like sign up for memberships and stuff, you know, it's a little uneasy because you're stuck into this payment and or a contract or whatever, and maybe you never get any benefit of it, or you stop or whatever. Well, the nice thing about Kover is like you'll have the freedom that if you just, anytime something came up and say you weren't working much or whatever, and so, or you had another job that popped up that paid you a lot more than the gig apps, or you had some extended time away, you can just pause your coverage. You can pause your membership. You're not stuck paying it unless it's actually covering you. And so you gotta have that freedom, and that as a nomad in this lifestyle and gig workers in general, that freedom's pretty cool. I'm always kind of a little concerned with companies about like using something to take advantage of people and stuff. And something that I think is really neat that Kover's doing and like kind of committing themselves to is the fact that they're committing themselves not to overdo the premiums and stuff, and trying to get what's all known as economic rents, where you get extra money out of people. What they're doing is they have a certain amount out of each subscription that they're looking to generate in revenue, and then anything else that's pulled in from premiums, the memberships and everything, they're taking that money, that's overage, and they're putting it back against people's premiums. So like it can actually end up reducing it can actually end up reducing the amount of your monthly costs on it and stuff. So I think that's good. I think it's nice that they're like committing to be fair on that. One of the last things I think is really good to like mention with Kover is that they're 100% independent. Like they're not connected to any of these gig apps. And I think that's super important. So like, especially on the deactivation stuff, which I would say is probably worth paying for the membership period if you're gonna like really rely on gig apps for your income, right? Is you wouldn't want to like have your livelihood shut down because of unfairly with deactivation for something you didn't do or for no reason or not even telling you. And the great thing about Kover not being part of any of these gig app companies is that they're actually going to be out for you and providing you with the best possible protection and defense with their legal system, because they're not part of those other companies. And the other thing is that you're not going to get like twisted into working for a certain one over another that might try to start trimming how much you actually make and being less competitive just because of the perks or benefits. Now that I'm all wrapped up with the live stream and everything that we had, I'm getting ready to go in here in Denny's and I'll set up to go ahead and edit up the video about Kover here that you were watching. And I just wanted to tell you that if you wanted to try it out and everything, that down in the description there's a link where you can use the service 1 month for free.